Another civil society organization, CDD, releases report on the 2019 general elections identifying major flaw in the collation of results. And the APC and the Social Democratic Party, SDP, will know their candidate for the November 16 governorship elections in Kogi, with the parties conducting the exercise today in Lokoja. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Akimalia, Channels Television's studio here in Abuja, the nation's political capital. Welcome everyone. So political parties in Kogi State, in Bayelsa State are gearing up for the governorship election slated for the 16th of November 2019. So today in Kogi, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, with aspirants, about 9 of them, and the Social Democratic Party, with, we understand, about 1 candidate jostling for the party's flag, conducting the primaries today, SDP and the APC. For the APC, the exercise would begin about midday. Today had about 3,837 delegates, with 3,596 of them accredited. The collection of ballots and sorting is ongoing, as we understand, at the venue of the APC primaries in Lokoja. So let's get to our major story of the day. You've not heard it all about the 2019 general elections. A lot of people are talking, and perhaps you will hear more about the 2019 elections in the days to come. There have been series of reviews and assessments of the general elections, and different groups have put together their observation report today. And this time around, the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, has come out with its findings and has said the collation of results was a major problem in the process of the conduct of the 2019 elections. We shall break down some of the issues that have been raised in this report for you. At that event today, the group and some other participants raised a major issue on the exercise conducted by INEC for 2019, making comparison with what happened in 2015, 2011, comparing notes and seeing what the electoral umpire did well and what they did not do well, so that they can correct them for Kogi, Bayelsa election and 2023 election. Take a look at what is showing on the screen right now. Some of the issues raised by CDD, what they found out were the major problems of collation in the 2019 election. These are some of the reactions and some of the submission at today's event when the launch of the document, the report by CDD, was presented today in Abuja.
CDD kept calling attention to the poor training, not and capacity of the INEC, the ad hoc staff. In fact, most of our releases, pre-election releases, kept making reference to it. Because some of the cases that will even be in the tribunal at this point in time, there are some results which will be contested, saying it was fraudulently based on fraud, but they weren't even fraud. Some were basic human errors due to poor arithmetical calculation.
And so you heard some of those issues there. Can you have an election and have a flawed collation process? Because that seems to be the spine of the electoral process. When votes are being cast, and for them to put it together, and the CDD is saying, this is what they found out. How true is it? If it's true, what would happen in correcting them? So ahead of Kogi election, we'll allow you to take a listen to the Kogi Rec, who was also the resident electoral commissioner for Kogi, who will be conducting the election there, has something to say about what they've learned from 2019 election, and also the IPAC president. They talk about Kogi election and Bayelsa election and what needs to be done urgently.
The issues can be addressed. One major thing they said was that the performance of the ad hoc staff were engaged at that level. I think we can improve on that, and then do double checks to make sure that what they actually collect is what is. Like in some cases, the results that shouldn't have been declared were declared because the staff didn't know that's what was supposed to have done. Perhaps sometime, maybe deliberately. But of course, we can do some double check to make sure that those things don't occur again.
So let's talk about this, everyone. What does this mean? Uh, for a moment, a lot of people thought there was a very huge improvement from 2015 election and that we should have seen that in 2019. But when the issues of activities of politicians on one hand, security agents on another hand, then INEC also having logistical problems, where do we go from here? Have joining me tonight to discuss this issue. The woman who spearheaded all these findings and this report, the director at the Center of Democratic Development, CDD, Idayat Hassan, joins us in the program tonight. And we're going to be hearing also from INEC. And we have the director of voter education and publicity at INEC, Mr. Oluwole Osaziuzi, also joins us on the program tonight. Thank you so much for coming tonight on the program. Let me begin with you. You are the one who brought this report, and you said that INEC did not do well. Those are some of the findings. It said the collation had problems. Succinctly, what exactly are those problems?
I think when it comes to INEC, there are two basic challenges as it relates to the 2019 elections they are directly responsible for. That is some actions of their staff and the logistical nightmare that actually marred these elections. The other three challenges belongs to other parties which we all talk about today. But importantly, when you look at INEC, we discover that the failure to actually deploy logistics properly even hampered collation from the level that where there are vehicles to move people to the ward collation center, those vehicles were not available in certain areas. There are also other areas where there were no lightning in this area.
In the places, in the
where they have
venues where
to put
collation.
together the result. And don't forget that this level of collation, which we even emphasized on in this report, is the first level where you are bringing together over 150,000, around 157,000 of the voting points, close to 120,000 of the total polling units that we have in the country to make the 8,809 political ward. Is the single largest unit of collation, and any challenge that is actually experienced in that level cannot be deciphered later.
Okay.
Now
so,
we add INEC
just a
staff.
moment,
Yes.
so Nigerians get it clear. 2015 and 2019. Did you make a comparison between those two exercises? Did INEC improve at all?
I think when it comes to logistics, it's always been a challenge with INEC, really. But this will also, to also be fair, for quite a long time, civic actors have always spoke about collation being a loose end. There has never been an attempt to look at the collation process in-depthly the way we did in the 2019 elections.
So you have identified among several other things that you discovered that collation was a major problem.
Exactly.
And you think the election was flawed. In the areas of, with that, in the areas of voting and declaration of results, you don't see any major problem?
There are problems. I think one thing we should get right as a country is that election itself is a process. The outcome, we are often concerned about the outcome, never the quality of the elections. All the actions that led to the polling day all come together to form part of the elections. What happened at the polling unit? What happened from the polling unit to the ward level collation, to the local government level collation, to the state level collation, or the presidential collation here in Abuja, are all very important aspects of the election, not just the outcome, which we often emphasize in terms
but
of
CDD
who won.
is emphasizing that collation had a major problem.
It has a major problem, and we identified 5 problems.
All right. So let me allow Mr. Oluwole Osaziuzi to, because prior to the elections, we had a lot of discussion, and you promised Nigerians that things are going to be better than 2015. Those are some of the promises you made. from this report, this is not the first report, Mr. Ozazuzi, that you'll be getting. You've gotten from Plaque and Situation Room. You've gotten from the EU Election Observer Group. This one coming from CDD, they are very specific. Collation, what's the problem?
Yes, thank you, Sean, for having me. Let me quickly add that what we did promise that we'll ensure that the election is conducted in substantial compliance with the regulations and the laws governing the process. By and large, I would say this we have done. I was in your studio when situation to discuss situation on another platform, Channels TV, and what was obvious was that they had set other standards, not prescribed by the Electoral Act, not prescribed by the Constitution. And I insisted, and we do still insist, that the standard by yardstick by which the Commission should be judged are those set up by the law, by the Constitution, by the Electoral Act, and by INEC guidelines. Those are only the yardsticks. And the Electoral Act envisages that being a human activity, being a process and a human activity, containing so many parts, it may not always be perfect. It will hardly ever be perfect. It's a human endeavor. The essence of the provision that there should be substantial compliance with the law. No election will be nullified because it has one or two imperfections or one or two challenges. It will only be nullified if there's non-compliance with certain fundamental steps in the law. So it recognizes that, look, because it's a human endeavor, it will not be perfect, as long as there's substantial compliance with the law. And that has always been what we strive towards, not by any yardstick set by any other person, but by, as set by the Constitution and by the law.
Mr. Ozazuzi, with your experience with electoral process in Nigeria, collation is a major part of the process. Voting, well, we look towards voting, but when people were collecting, because one of the politicians at that event today did say that one of the areas they discovered that they could easily rig election is at a collation point. So when CDD says some ad hoc officials of INEC do not even know how to put some of these figures together, there are no lights in some of the venues where this collation is happening, and there are errors in the process of collation. This is a major, major issue, Mr. Ozazuzi.
Well, elections is a process. The most important part of the election is the actual voting and declaration of results at the polling unit. That is the building block, the very foundation. If that is not right, nothing else will be right. That is the foundation. So even if INEC gets the collation wrong, which it should not, even if it gets it wrong, there is a process by which, for example, if it's challenged, it goes back to the foundation. And that is how Peter Obi became governor of Anambra State first time around. Because he alleged that they were, and to an extent, proved to the satisfaction of the tribunal, that the collation had some issues. So what did the tribunal do? Collation, you have issues? No problem. Let us go to those building blocks. Let us go, and the tribunals actually collated the results themselves and found out, look, yes, we are satisfied that you have proven this as required by law and made a return on as well. But that's not to undermine, underplay the role that collation has. Collation is a very, very important process. But you start with the voting and declaration of results, and then go on to the collation. It is an important part.
Yeah, Mr. Oluwale, there's one major issue. When a lot of people heard that there were no lights in some venues, we understand that generators were budgeted.
Generators were procured for the exercise.
Okay, so because
and
the part of the budget is what we know. We don't know whether they were actually procured, but we understand that they were budgeted for. Were they procured?
I have just answered that. They were procured. And all distribution of materials was open to observers, was open to the media, was open to political parties and their agents.
But were there generators at every collation center?
Let me put it this way. I was not in 9,000 collation points, so I cannot say categorically on network TV that, yes, they were in every polling unit. But provision was made, and as far as we're concerned, I think adequate numbers were provided for. And I am not aware of reports of darkness. There may have been malfunctioning at one stage or the other.
But these are supposed to be new ones.
They were, I am not aware that we bought 9,000 new generators. We had some generators on the ground.
So let's take a break. Sorry, apologies. Let's take a break. I'm sorry to cut in. We'll take a break, and when we come back, the issue tonight is how can we improve on our electoral process? When a group says collation is a major problem, INEC is sorting this issue, and they say they have their hands on those matters, and we're hearing from INEC tonight on the program. Don't go anywhere. There are more issues to tackle tonight on the program on the collation of 2019 elections and the issues generated. Join us again. Much everyone for staying with us. Tonight on the program, our attention is on the 2019 election and some of the assessment that has been made on the process of that exercise. So a lot of people will think naturally that from 2015 to 2019, there should be improvement on the exercise. So was there any improvement? A group came up today, CDD, is a civil society organization which had over 8,000 observer groups across the country monitoring the election. And they came up with a report. They said a major flaw in the election was the collation. So we're talking about it. INEC Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Oluwole Osaziuzi, has been talking to us and responding to some of the issues raised. Hidayat Hassan is the Director of CDD. She's also here with us in the studio. Thank you so much, gentleman and lady. Thank you so much. Let me quickly comment. I saw that you wanted to react to some of the things that were raised by Mr. Oluwole Osaziuzi. In truth, part of your report did say clearly that security agents have their own blame from your report, and also politicians also with their intimidation and using thugs and all of that. What are the other things that you discovered?
I think what is very key, aside from INEC, when it comes to INEC, who is actually on the hot seat today, there is actually a need to improve the capacity of the staff who are on that collation process. These ad hoc staff in themselves, some are not attuned with arithmetics in terms of putting together this, such that some of the cases that might actually show up even in the tribunal are not necessarily cases of fraud, but more of human error. And some of them also in their own way did unconscionable things and should actually be brought to answer. We had areas where INEC ad hoc staff refused to follow the rules the way it should be. Some even disappeared for like 20 hours in some word collation unit. Some refused to follow the process, which is espoused in the INEC guidelines, because now we are not talking about some rules that are separately set up. We are talking about INEC deriving its own powers to determine the collation process from the Electoral Act and espouse the same in the INEC guideline of January 2012, January 12, 2019, as espoused in it, and not following it. When you know that collation, depending on the election, is basically a sequence. So you are supposed to go from the polling unit to the ward, from the ward to the local government to the state collation center, and to the presidential, when it is the
presidential election,
to Abuja to finish this collation.
Let me quickly take you on, so we can let Mr. Oluwole also react to this. One of the areas you highlighted in your report is the fact that Lagos and Osun State had major incidents. They have the major incident, and 5 other states have more. Kaduna State is also part of it, had major incidents in these issues of collation. What did you find out in those states?
I think in those states, for me, if I want to look at it also tallies, like we said, at the presentation of the report, with other observers' reports who were not looking at collation, but they were looking possibly at the level of incidences as it happened in the elections. Some of these elections, collation problems were experienced as a challenge of, maybe the level of play. You see that it's a very close elections, and at all costs, people must win. These are must-win states for the political parties. So the intimidation by political talks and security largely accounted for some of this high level during the presidential elections.
Would you say that politicians use the collation period to rig elections?
I think all way they have put it, they have actually impugned the credibility of the elections. Take, for instance, where observers and media are not allowed to assess the collation point. But the rule clearly states that we can actually observe. It's not like we are going there to put something. In the mind of anybody, you will think that something untoward is already happening.
Let me allow Mr. Oluwole to come in here. Mr. Osaziuzi, a lot of Nigerians are now looking forward. Kogi, Bayelsa, and probably some other elections that are staggered before the 2023 elections. It's about improvement. What did you find out in these collation areas that gave you concern?
Well, I don't think there are too many fundamental things. We've just finished a process of engaging our colleagues and our stakeholders on their experiences in the 2019 election. CDD was represented when we engaged CSOs. I don't recall them making that a fundamental issue that they observed in the elections. Maybe they were waiting for saving it for their official presentation of their reports. But the essence of these gatherings is that we should be told what are the issues, where are they? And when we are credit observers, we as part of their terms of engagement, they are required before official presentation to the public to give us a copy so that we know what the issues are. And we try to encourage them to pinpoint things, not to make vague general assumptions and observations, but to be specific. When you do that, it helps us to pinpoint things, pinpoint those there. We also look at other reports and our monitors on ground. Did this tally with what they said? And if they did, are there culprits? Are there things that are going to be done to Section 123 criminalizing certain behavior or misbehavior of election officials? And we'll prosecute them.
Mr. Ozaziuzi, one of the areas that was found out is the fact that in the days of 23 elections, where ballot stuffing was very popular, one of the part of the report says that, look, politicians have now discovered that because collation goes into the deep of the night, they use that opportunity to rig election at that period. So it brings to the fore the question of, can't you electronically transmit a result instead of going through all the logistical problems and allowing rigging to happen in the collation era?
Theoretically, in an election, you can transmit results electronically, but the law does not, in Nigeria, does not allow for that. If and when Nigerians want that to happen, then you can do that. But that doesn't mean it will not be susceptible to manipulation by people who are interested in manipulating the process. But our Nigerian law, as it stands, there's a step-by-step procedure for collation.
But I thought that the Constitution empowers INEC to form its own guideline, which we use.
Not one that is contrary to law. The Electoral Act has put down, and the guidelines cannot, that's subsidiary legislation, they cannot counter that. They cannot change that. They cannot alter it in any way.
Yeah, I'm being told that we're out of time. I must sincerely thank you for coming. Idayat Hassan, Director, CDD, thank you so much for coming. Oluwale Osaziuzi, Director, Voter Education and Publicity. Although it's a pleasure having you to clarify some of these issues.
Thank you.
Well, we do hope that going forward, our elections will be proper and better organized. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. Bye-bye.